goals for 2024 is to get through every series that I'm currently in the middle of. I actually filmed part 1 to this video last year. You guys seem to really enjoy it, so I thought it would be fun to do a part 2. And again, just to finish every series that I'm currently in the middle of, because I'm in the middle of way too many. It's gotten to the point where it's actually overwhelming to me as a reader because I feel guilty picking up new books when I have so many series that I need to finish. After I finished part 1 of that video, I had 21 book series that I was currently in the middle of. Since then, that number has definitely increased. I'm actually in the middle of so many more series. I think at least 5 more series since part 1 went live. I'm going to ignore 4 of those 5 series just because I don't really have any plans to finish them anytime soon, and they still have books that need to come out, so I'm not too worried about them. I want to start off this video by reading The Play by Elle Kennedy, which is the 3rd book in the Briar U series. If you're unfamiliar with the Briar U series, it's basically the spin-off to the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. It's college hockey romances, and I really loved the first book, The Deal. After that, the books definitely went downhill for me in that series, but I decided to start the Briar U series, and I'm not gonna lie, I really liked the first 2 books in the series, The Chase, and I forget what the second one is called. So I do want to continue the series. There's 2 more books left, starting with The Play, and then the 4th book is The Dare. The Play actually follows Hunter Davenport and Demi Davis. Hunter Davenport was actually introduced in the first book, The Chase, and Demi's a new character that's going to be introduced, but I'm looking forward to learning more about her character and getting to know her. I own physical copies of the first 2 books in the series, but I don't own The Play or The Dare in physical form, but they are on Kindle Unlimited, so we're going to start off this vlog by reading on Kindle Unlimited and hopefully finishing out Briar U series. Oh my god, it just started pouring. This is like perfect reading weather right now. I'm so happy. I just got to chapter 14. I'm on page 123 and I'm really enjoying the book so far. It's reminded me a lot of The Deal, which was the first book in the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. Hunter's and Demi's relationship is reminding me so much of Garrett's and Hannah's relationship from The Deal, and how they started off as friends and then developed into them actually dating. And I just really like how it's like friends to lovers, and they're actually taking the time to get to know each other before jumping into bed with each other. The dialogue in this book is a lot funnier as well. Like, I enjoyed the first 2 books, but I felt like the first 2 books were really nothing special, but this one again is reminding me so much of The Deal, and I'm just enjoying it so freaking much. And the dialogue, the banter, everything is 10 out of 10. I really didn't know if I was going to like this book because I wasn't a huge fan of Hunter's character in The Chase, but he's really redeeming himself in this book, and he's growing as a person so much, and him and Demi are just perfect. Quick little update, I'm about 61% done with the book. This is definitely a lot more slow pace and slow burn compared to the other books in the series, and normally I'm not a huge fan of slow burns, but for some reason it works with these 2 characters. I mentioned earlier, but I really like how they're starting off as friends. They're not jumping into bed, and the book is not all about sex, which I feel like the Off-Campus series and the first 2 books in the Briar U series were definitely heavy on the smut, but this one is taking its time. They're learning about each other, and I like that. Hunter is really committed to his celibacy vow, and he doesn't want to break it. I'm more than halfway done with the book, and he's still committed to the celibacy vow. He doesn't want anything to mess with his hockey season, and I'm kind of impressed with how long he's held out, because when I read the synopsis of this book, I thought that the celibacy vow was going to be a thing for maybe baby, I thought the celibacy vow was only going to be a thing for like maybe the first 100 or so pages, but no, I'm almost halfway done with the book and he's still staying strong to this vow, and I'm kind of impressed, I'm not gonna lie. The only thing these 2 characters have done so far has been kissing, and they just kissed. Literally over 230 pages into the book and they just had their first kiss. So definitely slow burn, but I'm enjoying it. Alright, you guys, so I just finished a book and I think I give it a 4.5. I enjoyed this book so much. So far, it's my favorite book in the entire Briar You series. It was so funny. I literally laughed out loud, lol, in so many parts of the book while I was reading it. There were definitely times when my son was content napping on me and I wanted to laugh so much, but I had to hold it in or I would wake him up. It was just such a good time reading this book. I loved the two main characters. I felt like they had a ton of chemistry. I loved how their friendship basically evolved from being friends to a relationship. It definitely was a slow burn, and normally I'm not a huge fan of slow burns, but I loved the slow burn element in this book, and I just loved their relationship so much. It was so believable. Again, I loved their personalities as separate people, so when they came together, it was just perfection. The only reason I'm not giving it a whole 5-star rating, which I have gone back and forth with my rating all morning, it did get boring towards the end a little bit. It felt like all their problems in the relationship had been resolved early on, so I kind of was waiting for something to happen, and then something did happen, but it also felt unnecessary, and it felt like the author just had to throw in some drama in there to make the characters sweat, but then the drama only lasted for 0.5 seconds, so again, it didn't really make any sense. But other than that, I definitely would recommend this book. I definitely related to Demi a lot because she was a psych major, I was a psych major, and the way she finally decided what she wanted to do with her career, it's kind of similar to what I went through when I was in college. Like, I started as a biochem forensics major, then I realized when I got to college how much I hated all the chem classes that I was being forced to take, and I switched over to psychology, which Demi, the main character in this book, was also struggling with organic chemistry. And you guys, it just took me back to when I was in college, and I absolutely hated organic chem. I was in tears throughout that entire course because I was just not understanding it, and I just really enjoyed her and Hunter together. They were just great. I love them. I am so happy I enjoyed this book, and since there's only one more book in the entire series, it's a 4-book series, I think I want to start The Dare next, which is supposed to be a fake dating book between a character named Taylor and Connor, and we actually were introduced to Connor in this book, so I'm very excited to see how his love story plays out. Hopefully The Dare is just as good as this one, because I don't know, I feel like this one's going to be very hard to top, but we shall see. Had a good time reading it. I'm so close to finishing out this series, which makes me so happy. So let's continue our reading.
If we could run it, if we could run it back, and do you wonder if we could run it back, if we could run it, if we could run it back, and do you wonder.
I had to take a break from reading. I'm about 90 pages in and I'm already over Taylor mentioning her insecurity. Like, I understand how insecurities can have an impact on your self-confidence, on your life. We all have insecurities. There's not one human on this planet that doesn't have at least one thing they're insecure about, and I get it. But the way she's mentioning her insecurity on every page, I'm just like, are you just your insecurity? Even my glasses are fed up. It literally feels like her entire personality is her insecurity, and I'm just not enjoying the book for that reason. I don't know. I'm just so tired of her mentioning how insecure she is about her weight. Like, I want more. I hope the book doesn't continue like this, because I don't want to read an entire book where the main character is just mentioning her weight constantly. Connor, on the other hand, I freaking love. There's so many different layers to him, and I'm so intrigued to learn more about his family and about his past. I love him so far. He's like a complete fuckboy, but he's trying to do better. But I really like him because there's definitely more to him than what he lets other people, including his teammates, see. And I loved him in the last book. He was so funny, and his personality is really coming through in this book. Taylor just needs to get her shit together, because as of now, she's irking me, and I'm only continuing to read because I like Connor so much. And since this is the final book in the Briar You series, I'm going to power on through. But Taylor, please get your shit together.
We could run the things I didn't know. I had to get out down the road, inside of the same old, caught in the circles.
why did Elle Kennedy make everyone be so mean towards Taylor? Everyone's making these rude ass comments about her weight, and I'm just like, why? What's the point? Everyone in this book, aside from Connor and his teammates, have made comments about Taylor's weight, and it's written in a way where it's not even believable, because one minute she's talking about her body as if she was like Marilyn Monroe, which Marilyn Monroe was absolutely stunning, and then in the next sentence she's making it seem like Taylor's the ugliest person in the whole wide world because of her weight. And I'm just like, I'm so confused. Like, is she Marilyn Monroe or is she not? Also, why is everyone commenting on her weight? The way it's written is just not believable at all, because literally every person that has come into contact with Taylor has something to say about her weight. Like, every single person. Is who does that? Kind of over Taylor's insecurity being the main focus of this book, and I just hope that by the end of it she realizes that she's beautiful just the way that she is. But I hope she comes to that realization on her own, not because Connor makes her feel beautiful, because if that's the case, I'm going to have such a big problem with that. And since this book is so heavy on her insecurity, I really do hope that by the end of the book she realizes what a badass she is and she gains all her self-confidence back. That's all I have. Would you like to add anything else? Do you have anything else to add? No? No? Okay. That was absolutely brutal. Finishing that book was very hard. I actually ended up skimming a lot of it just because I just couldn't connect with the two main characters. I loved Connor's character. He was great and he was very funny. He definitely made the book for me. It definitely took me a while to warm up to Taylor, and then their whole relationship for me felt too insta-lovey, and I really didn't feel the chemistry between the two main characters. There's also a miscommunication trope in this book, and I hate that trope so freaking much. It happens throughout the entire book. It's not just one instance where the couple doesn't communicate well, because obviously that happens in every relationship, but it happens multiple times, and you get to the point where it's like, okay, are you guys even ready to have a mature relationship? Are you even committed to having a relationship? And I definitely skimmed most of this book, and it makes me sad because it's the final book in the Briar series, so I feel like I'm ending the series on a bad note since I didn't really like this book. I think I give it a 2.5. What I feared was going to happen with Taylor's self-confidence is what actually happened. I just didn't really like it. Regardless, I can scratch off the Briar series off my list, and I'm happy to say that I finished yet another series in my list of every series that I'm currently in the middle of. I do recommend the Briar series if you are into college hockey romances, and I do think it's a good series. I low-key like it better than the off-campus series. I feel like the off-campus series was good for maybe the first two books, and then it definitely went downhill. But the Briar series, aside from the final book, was actually pretty solid, and I enjoyed all the characters. I think the next series that I want to tackle is Cat and Mouse series by H.D. Carlton. It's the Haunting Adeline books. I read the first book back in December, Haunting Adeline. It messed me up on so many levels. It is a duology, so I do want to finish the second book, and the first book did end in a cliffhanger, so I do want to read the second book to see what it's giving, but I am a little scared because all the reviews that I've read have mentioned that this book is a lot worse than Haunting Adeline, and it's a lot darker, which for me, Haunting Adeline was already freaking dark as hell, and it took me a couple days to recover from that book. But I do want to finish this series so I can move on and scratch it off my list, so that's what we're gonna do, even if it takes me a few days to get through Haunting Adeline. We shall see. Let me know in the comments below if you read this series or this duology, I guess. Let me know if you struggled with it. I feel like this series is so beloved here on Book Talk and BookTube, but I don't know. I gave the first book a 3-star rating, and I don't even know how the second book is going to go. I don't know. We'll see. I'll probably start it later tonight, but I know for sure that's the next book that I want to read. As I expected, Adeline is going through it, and I'm struggling with a few few parts in this book just because the author really did not shy away from being realistic and showing what can happen to a human trafficking victim. I like that she's being realistic, but also for my mental health, for my anxiety, for my well-being, it definitely is a lot to read about the things that Adeline is going through. I don't know how to feel. Like, I like that she's being realistic, but also I don't like that she's being super realistic and super graphic. I don't know what I'm trying to say, honestly. I don't know. This book is definitely a lot, and it's definitely darker than the first book because everything that the first book alluded to or mentioned is happening to the main character in this book, which sucks because you kind of already fell in love with Adeline in the first book, and then to see everything that she's going through and everything that's happening to her, everything that these vile humans are doing to her, it just makes your heart break for her. I will say that I like Zed's character a lot more in this book, at least so far, because he's definitely burning the entire world to find Adeline, and you know what? I love that energy. Like, keep it up, Zed. That's the energy I want to see from male main characters. Like, burn the entire world to get your girl back. You know what I mean? So he's definitely grown on me a lot more. I really wasn't team Z in the first book whatsoever, but I am kind of liking him in this book. Kind of digging the red lights in the background. Let's talk about Miss Hunting Adeline. I will say that I enjoyed this book a lot more than the first one. I think I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, which is only half a star more than what I gave the original book. Although it was dark and it definitely isn't for the weak of heart. Look up all the trigger warnings before starting this series, before starting these books, because it can definitely be triggering for a lot of people. At the end of it, I could really appreciate that the author didn't shy away from being realistic when it comes to human trafficking victims. Once I finished the entire book, I could really appreciate that she went down that route. She didn't shy away from, again, being honest and realistic about what victims of human trafficking go through, and how there's always so many different people involved in a human trafficking scheme. Like I mentioned earlier, Z's character really did grow on me. I really like the fact that despite being super forward and, let's face it, super toxic in the first book, in this book he definitely took a step back and put Adeline first instead of putting his own urges and his own needs first. So I like that he took a step back, and some of his crazy took a step back also, and just focused on her well-being. The only reason I'm not giving it a 4 out of 5 stars is because I really wanted more of the revenge plot. I felt like the revenge was too quick. I wanted more from it, and I wanted it to be dragged out a little bit. Also, the ending took me for a complete loop. Like, where the hell is Sibby? I know that she has her own novella, but is she now going to get her own book? I'm confused. I want to know what happened to her. The ending just felt flat. Since we focused so much on the trauma that Adeline went through, I wanted her to get revenge, which, spoiler, she does get revenge, but it wasn't satisfying to me. Like, I wanted more. That's the only reason I'm not giving it a whole 4-star rating. But overall, it was an okay read. Would I recommend it? Probably, if you like dark romance. If you're not a dark romance girly, then definitely stay away from this book. And yeah, I'm just glad that I'm done with it and that I never have to read it again, to be honest. But it was entertaining. I will say that it was entertaining. Now that we finished the cat and mouse duet, I definitely need a break from romance, specifically dark romance. I think I'm in the mood for a fantasy read, which comes in perfect timing since I do want to try to finish Crooked Kingdom. Actually start and finish Crooked Kingdom. I read Six of Crows back in April. Literally the week before I gave birth to my son, I read Six of Crows, and I do remember liking that book, but I also remember it being super freaking slow. Definitely took me a hot minute to get into it, but I did fall in love with Kaz's character. So I am looking forward to seeing what the gang is up to in this book, especially since the first book kind of ended in a cliffhanger. If you're unfamiliar familiar with Six of Crows, it's basically a fantasy duology, I guess, because it's only 2 books. It follows a group of criminals, a group of people who are hired for a heist, and the heist goes completely wrong. Well, that's the first book, and I'm guessing this second book deals with the aftermath of what happened in the first book. So we'll see how this one goes. This one has been sitting on my physical TBR pile for months, so it is time for me to actually read and finish this book. Let's see what it's giving. It's a thick boy. Cute. I never understand these maps in fantasy books. Even when I finish the books, I go back and look at the maps and I'm like, okay, I don't get it. It's a little bit later. I just got to part 2 of Crooked Kingdom. There are so many characters in this book that it's kind of hard for me to keep track of everyone. And I remember feeling that way with the first book. So it hasn't really gotten better for me with this one. It's just hard for me to keep track of everyone and their story. I'm not obsessed with any of the characters except for Cass and Indy. I don't even know how to pronounce her name. I need to look it up so I'm not butchering her name this entire video. I love them. I love the chemistry. I love them together. But the other characters like Nina, Jasper, Waylon is the other one. I'm not obsessed with them. I like them. They're not bad characters, but I'm just not obsessed with them. When their chapters come up, I'm kind of bored, if I'm being honest. I get really excited when I see a chapter dedicated to Cass, but everyone else I'm kind of just bored. I will say that I was right about where this book was going to start us off at. It definitely takes place immediately or almost immediately from where the first book ended, and it's dealing with the aftermath of how Six of Crows ended. And the writing isn't bad. It's just definitely taking me a bit to get into it and to get back into the Six of Crows world. Just because it is slow, and again, all the different characters, it's getting very hard for me to follow, but not a bad book so far. I'm just wondering how long it's actually going to take me to read this whole thing, because yeah, we'll see. I just got to part 4 of Crooked Kingdom, and I hate to do this. I really do hate to do this, but I think I'm going to DNF this book for now. I've tried my hardest to get into this book, but I just can't. I just don't care about the characters or the storyline. I think it's because it's so slow that I'm having a hard time wanting to keep on reading. Like, I don't really care about the Six of Crows world all that much, and I'm not invested in the characters. So the fact that this book is so long-winded and it's just drags and drags and drags, I'm just like, oh my god, does it ever end? I'm about 266 pages in and I just can't do it anymore. I do want to finish a book, but I want to finish it when I'm in the mood for a long-winded storyline. I don't want to force myself to read it now when I'm not in the mood, because then I feel I will give it a horrible rating based on the mood that I'm in, not because of the writing, because the writing isn't bad. There's actually have been a couple twists that I did not see coming and that had me kind of shook, but other than that, it's very slow, and I kind of find myself just wishing that it would be over. So I'm going to take a step back for now and DNF Crooked Kingdom. Hopefully I can finish it before the end of January. We will see. I'm already about halfway done with it, but I just can't muster courage or the desire to read the second half of this book. I will finish it though before January. Hopefully I will. I just want to make sure I'm in the right headspace for this book, and right now I'm just not in the right headspace. So instead of forcing myself to continue reading it, I'm going to DNF it and then pick it up later. But that brings us to the end of this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching. I feel kind of proud of myself because I finished 2 whole series and I'm halfway done with 1. So overall, I feel like this video was pretty successful aside from this DNF. I'm making progress with all the series that I'm in the middle of. Let me know in the comments below, what series are you currently in the middle of reading? I would love to know. But that's pretty much it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I would love to have you a part of my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.